but not completely. One missing person. My son Stu is not feeling well this morning, so he'll miss the show. But we got the rest of the group. Rick Kearney, our certified diagnostic master technician, and my co-host, Nancy Stewart. We've got this is a very special show because this will be the first Earl Stewart on Cars show that we have broadcast and televised and Zoomed, where the Attorney General for the state of Florida, that's where we're located for you folks out of state, the Attorney General, Ashley Moody, for the state of Florida Attorney General, has committed to enforce the law that's been on the books for 20 years. I mean, I got to laugh when I say it, but those were her words, not mine. She is committed to enforce the law, unfair deceptive trade practices. The lawyers call that FDUPTA. Fraud is a commonly understood word. When dealers are fraudulent in the sales of their vehicles and in their advertising and the bait and switch and the rest of it, well, if you're a listener to the show, you know what I'm talking about. But on September 1st, that law went into effect. So it's going to be up to us, and by us I mean you and the folks on this show, to get the word out. Because think about it, you've been buying and selling cars, or you've just been buying cars for a long time, and you know what the dealers do, and you know that there's no punishment, there's no fines, there's no lawsuits to speak of. Dealers get away with bloody murder. They can do just about anything, advertise any way they want to, and nobody seems to have done anything. But now we have a commitment from the number one law enforcement officer in the state of Florida, Ashley Moody. She's in charge of all the law folks in Florida. So she's gone on record, we have it in writing, that if car dealers violate the Florida statutes on unfair and deceptive trade practices, bait and switch advertising, junk fees, dealer-installed accessories that are not disclosed, any deception of this nature, they are going to be, they're going to be fined. They can actually have their motor vehicle retail license revoked. So exciting times. This show is the first show that we've done where we can state that maybe we can really clean up Dodge, especially South Florida, which is the Sodom and Gomorrah of all car dealers in the country or the world, for that matter. Now, we're going to offer to pay you for your time if you are legitimately buying a car and you're in the market and you go into a car dealership, and either if you buy a car or if you decide not to buy the car, but if you legitimately are buying a car and you are subject to these unfair and deceptive trade practices, bait and switch, junk fees, dealer-installed accessories, if the advertised price of the car or the price that the salesperson quoted you, if you called on the telephone, if you went in person, if they led you to believe that the price of the car was much less or any less than the actual advertised price, they violated Florida law. You can file a complaint with Ashley Moody's office by calling this number, and Nancy Stewart will be mentioning this. Rick Kearney will be. Everybody's going to be mentioning this. We want you to hear this number. It's a fraud line for the Attorney General Ashley Moody, and that number is 866-966-7226. 866-966-7226. You might want to make a note of that. And even if you're not in the market for a car, if you have a friend or a neighbor, someone is thinking about it, equip them and prepare them for this. We will pay $100 for a buyer of a car, intended buyer. You don't have to buy the car, but you must intend to buy the car at some point. And then if they treat you in a manner that you feel is unfair or deceptive, if they misled you, if they gave you a price they wouldn't honor, if they advertised the price, but the real price, excluding government fees, the real price, when you add the junk fees back in, was higher than the advertised price, then you can file a complaint with Ashley Moody, Florida Attorney General's office, by calling 866-966-7226. And if you're streaming us, that number is up on the screen now, along with Ashley Moody's photograph. And I think we can get something going here, folks. I've never been more positive about making a change, and we've been doing this show for over 20 years. So that's my main message. I'm going to turn the mic over to Nancy Stewart. She's my co-host. Most of you folks know her, regular listeners. 20 some odd years ago, we founded a 30-minute show on Thursdays on the Seaview Radio, a little station, Seaview Radio. And since then, the station has changed owners. We're now on for 2 hours every Saturday, and we're on from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. And she co-founded the show with me, has been with me all the way, and she is a very strong female advocate who's built the audience in this show from practically zero females to just about 50-50. Nancy, the mic is all yours.
Thank you. Boy, I'll tell you what an exciting day. I think we got some traction, Earl. What do you think, Rick? How about you, Jonathan? Everybody excited? I think I feel some energy in this room, just a little bit different. I say that it's, well, hopefully the roof's not going to come off this building because we really are excited. And Earl has worked hard to get to this day, and we've joined him. We've joined him in this crusade. And Ashley Moody is finally giving us some attention, the attention that we need and the job that she should be getting done. With all of that said, you're going to hear this number a lot, and this is a number that you can reach an Attorney General Ashley Moody's office, 866-966-7226. Without you folks, we're nowhere. We appreciate you. Anything that you can do for us, taking advantage of the phone number, making that call, letting your voice be heard. We need more than one voice, and we're here for you to fight these dealers that take advantage of everyone and have been. Hey, take a look at our ratings. You can help us, just get our ratings out of the same spot it has been in for how long? Earl, 20 years?
22, 23 probably.
Yeah, and we've been stuck. Yeah, stuck at the bottom. So help us. On another note, we've got a great mystery shopping report from Stuart. And also, ladies, I tell you week in and week out how important you are. And we show it by giving you $50 for the first 2 new female callers. $50 for the first 2 female callers. Give us a call toll free at 877-960-9960. And don't forget, you can text us at 772-497-6530. But don't forget that number for Ashley Moody. It's very important. And Earl's going to talk more about this during the show. So jot that number down. Like I said, we'll be mentioning it throughout the show. And that number is 866-966-7226. Give us a call. Let us know what you think about this fight that we have been part of. My husband he's put his blood, sweat, and tears into this, and it's all for the consumer. And he has done one hell of a job. So there you go. We have a show to do. Give us a call. Be part of the show. You are an important part of the show. Again, that number, 877-960-9960. Don't forget your anonymous feedback.com. Now back to the recovering car dealer.
I just was remembering when you were talking about this Ashley Moody thing in the Attorney General's office many years ago. I had a senator from Miami, state senator, who invited me to Tallahassee to speak to the group, to the Senate in Tallahassee, about enforcing the relatively new law at that time, the Florida Statutes on Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Act. So I think that might have been, no, it wasn't my first trip to Tallahassee. I was there many, many years ago. I went to Florida State University for a visit. But this is probably my second time in Tallahassee. And I walked into the state capitol all by myself. And I stood in front of the group, the legislature, the Florida legislature. And they also had the attorney general there. That was like 3 or 4 attorney generals ago. The name will come to me. It was a male attorney general. And I made my presentation. The state senator that invited me to speak about the car dealers' misbehavior was with me. And I made my presentation. I thought I did a pretty good job. And it wasn't a standing ovation or anything, but everybody was nodding their head like they understood what I was talking about. And then the attorney general came up and made his side. He was the thing that shot me down was, Your Honor, or whoever he was talking to, all the politicos there in the legislative arena, they have practically no complaints from the consumer. So that was the problem. That was the excuse that the Attorney General used for not going after the car dealers. We don't get very many complaints. I can't remember the exact number, but I think he said in the past 6 months I've had 2 complaints. So we got to complain, folks. We have our opportunity. Now, you probably got tired of complaining 20 years ago because they probably would ignore it. Today they won't ignore it, and we're not going to let them ignore it. So you heard the number. And if you can just call 866-966-7226. That's Ashley Moody, the Attorney General, and file the complaint, the fraudulent complaint. You'll have to do it in writing. And we're going to give you $100. I mean, I'm not trying to bribe anybody to complain. I don't want anybody who's mad at a dealer but has no evidence, has no reason to be bad. This isn't a personality contest. This is a legal situation where when they break the law, when they're trying to sell you a car, they need to be taken into responsibility. They need to be warned, fined, or perhaps even have their license suspended. So if you'll call that number, 866-966-7226, give us the information. We'll confirm that it's a legitimate, that you made a legitimate complaint, and we'll pay you $100 for your time.
How long ago was it we were both in Tallahassee, and was the Attorney General, his last name?
Butterworth. Bob Butterworth. It was Bob Butterworth. Yeah, he was the Attorney General at the time. That's right. It was probably about 20 years ago. I mean, the law was,
back in 1982.
The law was relatively fresh, about 1982. The law was relatively fresh. Now, we've given the number out so many times. We haven't given out a number that's arguably as important, almost, is our number, and that number is 877-960-9960. 877-960-9960. And we have a call already.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of callers. And would like to welcome Don to the show. He's calling us from Coconut Creek. Marty will be right with you. Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you. I live in South Florida. I moved here about 40 years ago and got into the car business, started selling cars. And after about a little bit less than 2 years, I was put into F&I. And as you know, 40 years ago, it was a lot worse than it is now. And I've seen F&I evolve in those 40 years. I became an F&I trainer. and traveled all over the country to dealerships, training them how to do F&I ethically. And I'm very, very proud of that. One thing that I'd like to talk about is that you discuss what you call extended warranties frequently.
Yes.
And I learned a long, long time ago that calling it an extended warranty is not the proper way to call what a service contract is. An extended warranty insinuates that you are extending the manufacturer's warranty,
yes.
and that's not what you're doing when you sell a service contract.
You're right.
So we were taught very early on not to call it extended warranty, but to call it a service contract.
Yes.
So first of all, I wanted to get that out. Secondly, I wanted to let people know, because a lot of people have really bad vibes about service contracts, and there are a lot of finance managers that try to stuff service contracts into your contract, and there are a lot that do it legitimately. And I believe that a service contract is valuable if you're going to keep the car longer than the 3-year manufacturer's warranty. If you're going to keep the car 5, 6, 7 years or more, I think a service contract is extremely important. I purchased a used vehicle not too long ago, and I intend to keep the car for a very long time, and so I purchased a service contract, and I've used it already, and it saved me a lot of money. So if you're keeping the car longer than 3 years and you don't want to put out any kind of money out of your pocket, that could be very expensive for what repairs cost today, I just wanted to say that I think it's a good idea.
Well, Don, that's I appreciate that. And coming from a professional, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you calling the show. We get very few people with experience in the retail automobile business or the finance business, as your experience. You're in both. So I really appreciate you taking the time to call the show. I agree with, in general, with what you said. And you'll know this all because you were in the business, that all service contracts are not created equal. And a lot of service contracts are created by the car dealers, and they form companies, and they put them in offshore companies, so for tax reasons, and they decide what components will be covered and how completely on the contract. On the other hand, that's one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum are the manufacturers. They have extended service contracts. Honda, Ford, General Motors vehicles, they offer these. These are legitimate service contracts, and they do cover a reasonable amount of components on the car. And one other thing, so I say to people, service contracts, if it gives you peace of mind, if you feel better about owning the car and not as much fear of what happens if it breaks down and I can't afford to fix it, if that's going to make you feel better about owning the car, buy one. But be sure that you get a legitimate service contract, and I always point to the manufacturers because those are virtually all legitimate, not one that's designed by the dealer to maximize his earnings. And also, it depends on what kind of car you buy. If you buy a car with a very low maintenance requirement and very high reliability history, I'll say Lexus as an example, or if you buy a different car, let's say a Jeep. Now the Jeep has a high percentage of breakdowns and a high maintenance and a lot of other things that are wrong with it. I'm quoting Consumer Reports for that. So if you've got a good quality car, you might think less about buying an extended service contract than if you have a high-quality car, which if you maintain it properly, according to the factory's owner manual, you're probably not going to have very many problems. But I agree with everything you said. I just wanted to be a little bit more specific.
Well, I think 3 important words that you just said are peace of mind.
Yes.
If you want the peace of mind and knowing that you're not going to have to put out a ton of money in the future if your car breaks down. And I'd also like to say, and I'm sure you're aware of this, you're familiar with CarShield that advertises
Oh, yes.
a lot on TV.
Yes.
Are you aware that they were fined and had to pay $10 million of fines for deceptive advertising?
I was, and I wasn't at all surprised. But yes, I'm glad to see someone would take that step. And for every car shield that gets fined, there's other extended warranties out there. They were above the radar. They were on TV. They were in your face, and people saw what was going on and checked them out. The extended warranty companies that get away with it are the ones that fly under the radar. They get your name on a mailing list. They send you a mail solicitation, email, text, phone call. There's a huge number of boiler rooms around the country calling people and saying, we have a special opportunity for you to extend your factory warranty. And so those are the ones that don't get caught. Car Shield got too arrogant and got on television, and someone probably in a position of authority said, we got to go after this company.
You know, Dawn, we talked about Car Shield. This is Nancy Stewart. We talked about Car Shield for months, and even became more irritated when we saw them on TV as long as we did.
Ice-T was doing the commercial.
Pardon me?
Ice-T, isn't that the guy that was doing the commercial?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm too old to know who Ice-T is. He could have been Clarabelle. I don't know. But at any rate, they really took advantage of a lot of people. But rather than give them any airtime, let me move on to something important that I think is important. How long ago did you work in F&I?
38 years ago, I started in F&I.
Okay. How long would you say you were in the office with the customer finalizing the transaction?
I'd say that I probably did that actually in a dealership full time, probably for 3 or 4 years till I was promoted to a regional F&I director, where I worked for a group that had several dealerships and went into training them in an F&I regional director capacity.
Yeah, and you know, this is it's really a shame that there are a lot of consumers out there right now. I never thought I'd hear this and even announce it on the air, but they're financing. They have to finance their service. Can't afford to get their cars fixed. So anyway, and there's ways of solving that problem, by getting finance. But I see where Earl has something he might want to add to the conversation.
Yeah, Don, we got some other callers waiting here, but I had to ask you this one question. Back 38 years ago, have you heard of the Wang machine, W-A-N-G?
Absolutely, I used it.
I had the first Wang machine in Florida. I had a Pontiac dealership in West Palm Beach, and when Dr. Wang, the inventor, came out with that, I had the first F&I machine in South Florida. So the Wang became the name of the game back then. All the dealers bought them.
Yeah, I went from Wang to UCS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the system we used after Wang. It was UCS.
UCS.
Well, listen, it was a pleasure talking to you folks. I enjoy your show and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don. We're going to go one more time. I'll give out that number for Attorney General Ashley Moody, and that telephone number is 866-966-7226. That is 866-966-7226. You can win yourself $100 this morning by helping us here at Earl Stewart on Cars to let all of our voices be heard. And you can also, you get rewarded with $100. So it's a win-win situation. Call Ashley. Yeah, I know her. I'm on a first name basis with Ashley. Her number again is 866-966-7226. Now we're going to go to Marty. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning. I have a couple questions for Earl.
Okay.
If a car dealer has his 2 or 3 junk fees in his price, as long as he tells you that price up front, he's not violating the law. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, it's it's called profit. I mean, you don't have to make up a fee and put an amount there to increase your profit if you just put the profit into the advertised price. The whole purpose of the junk fee is so you can advertise a lower price than your competition and make the customer believe they're going to pay a couple $1,000s less than they really can pay. So yeah, if you want to put in nitrogen in tires and pinstripes and all the other crap, the mud flaps, they charge you $500, $1,000, $2,000 for something that the dealer probably paid to have installed, $500. I mean, they mark these things up 1,000%, and that's just to conceal the profit. So yeah, if you want to put a bunch of junk in your price and advertise the price and quote the price when someone asks you what is the out-the-door price, go ahead and put as many junk fees on there as you want, and dealer fees and dock fees and the rest of it. We don't care what you want to name your profit, as long as you admit it is profit and not something I need to have or have to buy.
Right. Okay, my next question is, up until this past week, a lot of dealerships put in market adjustment. Now, for me personally, I get rid of that, so I don't even bother with that number. But does that have to be in their price if they're going to charge you that, or can you say that's not something that they have to put in there?
They have to. The market adjustment, I have no problem. Well, I have a slight problem with market adjustment. The MSRP is not the price, the maximum price that a car dealer can sell the car for. The manufacturer's suggested retail price, the Monroney label, is the suggested retail price. But if a car dealer wants to charge $1 million for a car that he paid $50,000 for, that's okay, as long as he advertises that price. He might not sell too many, but as long as he advertises full price. So the market adjustment is nothing more than marking up the MSRP. And you see this a lot with dealers when a limited edition car comes out. The Toyota Supra is a great example. When the new Supra came out a few years ago, dealers were charging hundreds of thousands of dollars more. I mean, literally. It was crazy. Wealthy collectors will pay a lot of money for a classic car. And first off the assembly line, a guy by the name of John Staluppi, who was a big car dealer, he paid $1 million for a Supra off the assembly line. And so, it's no law against charging a lot of money as long as you tell the buyer up front, this is all the money to pay. And if they say yes, it's perfectly legal.
And Marty, that market adjustment that you mentioned, do you remember the first time you saw it, you heard it? It was right after COVID. And everybody, these dealers jumped on the chance to take advantage of the consumer. Why? How? Right. Because of market adjustment, and they're still using it.
Right.
Rick?
The other thing I just wanted to say is for when you go to the finance guy, I get out of there very fast, personally, because I tell them I want nothing.
Smart.
and that's it, and I sign all the either no's and I know they don't like it, but I don't buy anything extra, and I've been buying a lot of cars. So I think that, and you're the finance guy that called you, I don't care how long you keep the car, you're better off saving your money, and if you have to repair it, use the money for that. Now, I never kept the car for 15, 20 years, so I don't know how that works out, but keeping a car 4, 5, 6 years, usually you'll be ahead of the game by not buying the warranties.
Well, thanks, Marty. Rick had a comment.
I recently saw a post on Reddit that was the Monroney sticker and the market adjustment on a 23 Dodge Challenger Demon. The sticker price on the car was $121,000. The market adjustment was $150,000.
That's one hell of a market adjustment.
Absolutely ridiculous. And I can tell you from personal experience, if you find a car that's a reliable vehicle, there's nothing wrong with keeping a car well into double digits. My first Tacoma that I had, I kept it for 17 years, and I never experienced any major problems with it. My wife's Highlander was 13 years old when we traded it in for her RAV4. And certain cars, Hondas and Toyotas, Subarus, Acura and Lexus, with basic good maintenance and just reasonable driving habits, they'll last 15, 20 years easily and still be worth a fortune when you go to trade them in.
Absolutely.
I guess if you really get a lemon, you could always have a problem.
And you'll know that quickly. Most cars, if there's a major problem with that car, you're going to find out within the first 8 months to a year if there's really a problem with that car. Otherwise, with routine maintenance, modern cars will just keep right on going. I mean, I used to make a fortune when I was a lot younger off of drive belts. Drive belts, most of our guys would forget to look at them. You'd see big cracks in it. You'd take a picture. The customer would buy new drive belts, and that was it 3 years. Now, the drive belt on my pickup is 13 years old and is still perfectly brand new. There's no cracks in it.
Interesting.
Everything just lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'd be very interesting to see how many people, what dealerships really change.
Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah, you're right.
Marty, why don't you go out and buy a car, and if you have any problems, file a complaint with Ashley Moody, and let me give you $100.
Yeah, the problem is I bought the car 6 months ago, so if I buy another one now, I want you to buy the whole car. 100's not enough, Earl.
Hey, Marty, did you see you're still driving your Crown, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I better be.
I hear where you're coming from. Okay. The reason I ask is because in the road report for the Consumer Report, they have the Toyota Crown Signia, and the Crown Signia SUV offers improvements over the Crown sedan. I believe the sedan is the one you have, correct?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you need this feature or not, if you have a lot of tall people in your family, but that is something that has changed on the Crown that's come out. One of the many things that have changed, if you can believe that.
My grandson's 6'4", and he sat in the back of my Crown, and he was hitting his head on the top there.
Yeah. Well, he's going to like the new Crown. It has definitely it's very visible. It can hold your grandson. Hey, Marty, we're going to roll. And,
okay, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Marty.
Help us out. Call the Attorney General. Okay, folks, I'm going to give you the meeting number for Zoom. And I want to thank Jonathan last week for calling us from Orlando. And what an informative call. And he was really great. I hope he spread the word to his circle because it's going to make for really great calls. But the Zoom ID number is 926-589-0586. That's 926-589-0586. Win yourself $100 first 2 new Zoom callers. We're just giving away money left and right. Why? You deserve it, and you deserve to be compensated for your time. And you are giving to this fight, this march, this what we want to achieve, what Earl has been working towards. So we're just not giving out money frivolously. We're just, we just want to give you an incentive. Okay, Earl?
We've been talking about service contracts and buying cars and attorney generals. I sometimes overlook the most important part of the show, which is how do you keep your car maintained and repaired without being ripped off by a car dealer? And you've heard from Rick Kearney. He comes in and talks about the sales process too, because he's part of the business. But what he's uniquely qualified to diagnose a problem you might have with your car. And you know what it feels like when you suddenly notice that symptom of your car. There's a noise you can't quite positively, I can't tell where it's coming from, but it's a tick, 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 or a boom, 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 or maybe it's a smell. And then you start to sweat, or maybe that infamous check engine light comes on, and you wonder what's going to happen. Saw an article in the Automotive News this week that the average cost when a check engine light comes on is about between $400 and $500, $450 or something like that. So here you're on a dark road in the middle of the night, and you don't know exactly where you are. That check engine light comes on. Maybe the family's in the car with you. I mean, that's scary. So if you have something that's really worrying you about your car, ask Rick Kearney. If you're on youtube.com/Earl on Cars, he has a huge following on youtube.com/Earl on Cars. You can post and ask him a question. Rick has worked for me for over 25 years. He's a certified diagnostic master technician in all categories, whether you're talking about transmission, air conditioning, the engine, every part of a car. And you don't just get a badge that calls you a certified diagnostic master technician. What is it, every 2 years, Rick?
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years, he has to go back and graduate again because the technology is moving so fast that a technician that took the test 20 years ago, he's out of date. Every 5 years, he's got to go back and pass another test. And as a tip to you, when you're choosing a technician, from wherever you do, independent or a car dealership, ask what he's qualified in on ASE. ASE is?
The Automotive Service Excellence.
Automotive Service Excellence. So you want a free diagnosis? Give us a call at 877-960-9960. That's 877-960-9960. Ask for Rick. And Rick will listen to what you have to say. What's really cool, if you want to do this, if you happen to Zoom us, or if you want to be online, you can send him a video clip or even an audio clip. That's really cool because oftentimes that'll give him that little extra information that he needs to make an accurate diagnosis. But 877-960-9960, and Rick Kearney can answer any question you have about your car.
And I actually have had it happen that someone has sent a clip to me, a short video clip where customers come in and said, hey, I've got this sound, but it only happens once in a while. And they play the clip and I can hear it. And it gave me a way to help me duplicate it and solve the problem. And it makes it so much easier because cars are so complicated nowadays, and trying to communicate to a mechanic what you're hearing and when you're hearing it. So, but folks, if you really want a quick word of advice, if you've got something odd happening with your car and you're really not sure what's going on, you want to go to where the mechanic is, get the mechanic, ask them to go for a ride with you, and do your best to duplicate what that sound or noise is for them. And if you can show it to them, 99 times out of 100, they can fix it.
And let me jump in there because I've been in the business a long time, and I get a lot of calls. I'm pretty much open to all of our customers. And if you didn't know this, we have a car dealership, and after I say that, I always say this is not an infomercial, but we have a car dealership in North Palm Beach, Toyota dealership, and I've been there since 1975. Customers call me all the time. And I get complaints on our service department, like all car dealers do. And one of the complaints that I get is my car was making a noise. And I took it in, and they looked, and they couldn't find anything wrong, and they gave me the car back. And on the way home, I still heard the noise. The same thing would apply to shake, rattle, or roll, or odor, symptoms that you observe with your senses. Now, we all know some people can't hear as well as other people, and that includes mechanics. I would think technicians, because you're around engines and you're probably around some loud noises. I would think some technicians suffer some amount of hearing loss.
Oh yeah, yep.
So if you've got good ears and you hear a noise that really worries you, and the technician that road tests the car with you, you should ride with him. If he can't hear it, you're not going crazy. He just can't hear it. Ask for verification. Ask for another person to go with you. And the same thing with the smell. Some of these things are subtle, and I won't say that sometimes. My joke is, if something hurts until you go to the doctor, then it doesn't bother you anymore. This can happen with a car. It makes a noise all the time, but when I take it into the repair shop, it stops making the noise. I know that happens, but more often than not, it doesn't happen that way. It happens if the person can't smell it, feel it, hear it, see it. It's just, the five senses are not sharp enough. So don't give up.
Well, and the other side of that is when you're driving your car, you get so used to what it feels like.
Yeah.
The instant something odd is there, you can feel that oddity. Yeah. You smell it, you hear it, you see it. You know something's wrong because it's something that changed in your environment that you're in all the time. Whereas the mechanic is driving 20 or 30 cars a day maybe, and every one of those is different. Mm-hmm. So he's never really sure, now he may get in your car and hear your noise and be able to say, oh, okay, yeah, I know exactly what that is. But it's not something you want to mess with.
And while we're on that subject,
yeah, it may be something so tiny you'll be like, look, you don't want to spend money on this.
While we're on that subject, ask the person. Here's a comment I get, a complaint. They told me that this is the way the car is supposed to sound, or smell, or feel, and they all do it that way. So now that excuse really bothers me. So I tell my customers, and I'm telling you, ask for another car, or maybe more than another car, and see if in fact that has that same problem.
Yes.
Now, if the manufacturer is building these cars, whether it's Toyota, General Motors, or Honda, and it's making a noise, or it's pulling, or shaking, or smelling, then the factory should be advised, and there should be a recall campaign on the thing. So don't let they all do it. All the cars do that. Why are you complaining? Because everybody that bought that model has the same problem. Somebody needs to be responsible for that problem, and you need to find out if it is, in fact, and all the cars of that make.
Well, just a funny story on that was when cars first came out with electronic parking brake for the rear, when you put the car in park, you would hear this bzzz, and all of us were like, what in the world is that? And it wasn't until we actually thought and realized that sound is actually the electric motors on the rear calipers engaging those brakes. So that is a noise that every one of them is going to make. And sometimes it's a little louder than others. If you have your windows up and you're sitting in a quiet room, a quiet area, you'll hear that noise a lot louder than if there's a lot of traffic around you, or your windows are down, the air's blowing, whatever. So we had customers come in and say, hey, this making this weird noise. And we'd explain what it was. Said, nope, this is a normal sound. You're going to hear this.
And that's another reason why you should always test drive the car that you buy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You would be surprised how many people buying a used car or a new car do not take it on a thorough test drive. But they got you if you didn't do that. But when you hear it and you say, I'll buy it if you'll fix that noise, and they say, I'm sorry, I can't fix it, you're going to save a lot of money.
And Rick is here to answer all your questions, and he can answer all of your questions. I said that last week, and he just looked at me. He knows all the answers. He may not know one or two answers.
I know where to find them.
But he knows all the answers. That telephone number is 877-960-9960. Let me point out to the ladies, if you're listening, did you know that 85% of ladies, 85%, you influence a purchase of a vehicle. You influence. You are a huge part of this industry, a real moneymaker. And if the dealerships don't get that by now, financial disaster for them. Okay, and I have $50 for the first two new lady callers. which brings me back to the phones, and I'm going to talk to Joan from Stewart, who is a first-time female caller. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for holding, Joan.
Okay,
How are you? What can we do for you?
I'm good. Well, I was told to call this number by a friend of mine, and I found the conversation interesting. I don't know what radio station it is I could tune to hear this more often.
True Oldies. We're in North Palm Beach, Florida, and we have several True Oldies stations all over South Florida.
Oh, okay.
It's a great station. If you like the Goldie Oldies, I do. I mean, I love movies.
I do.
The 60s and 70s music. You ought to try this station out. It isn't all talk show. We have some talk shows, but a lot of times they just play the Goldie Oldies.
It's a great station.
Oh, okay.
Very informative.
What's the number of the station?
Number?
Good.
877-960-9960.
95.9 FM.
Oh, you're looking for the...
95.9 FM. Okay.
Oh,
That's
okay.
And it's
Yeah.
it's true oldies.
True Oldies. Okay.
Yep.
I'll look for it.
TRU Oldies. Yeah.
Oh, TRU Oldies. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Joan. I'm spread the word, and if you've got any friends that are female that haven't called the show before and like to pick up $100 like you did, tell them to give us a call.
Okay, I definitely will do that.
Thank
Don't
you, Joan.
forget
We're building the female audience. Nancy Stewart, my wife and co-host, we founded the show 20 years ago, and she has been able to bring our female listening audience up to 50%. And that's one of the ways we do it, is introduce the prize of $100 to folks who haven't called before. So we hope you'll call again, especially if you have any questions about buying or leasing or maintaining your car.
That's great. I'm glad I can do that. That would be very helpful.
What else you could do, Joan, is to leave your contact information so that I can send that check out to you.
Oh, okay, sure.
Have a great
I
weekend.
can do that. Thank you. You too. Nice talking.
You too. Spread the word. We're building a platform here for the ladies. Okay, we're going to go to Roadrunner Steve. He's a regular caller from Boynton Beach. Good morning, Roadrunner Steve.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to be back talking to everybody.
Neat.
Where'd you go?
I was in New York. I got COVID somewhere, so I was aggravated for 2.5 weeks.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
So with that, okay. Last week I was listening to the show about the hammer in the car to knock the glass out.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, if you go to Dollar Tree, you can pick up 4 hammers for $5. Keep 2 in the front, 2 in the back. This way you ain't got to go searching everywhere.
Yep.
for it.
Yeah, you don't want to have to do any searching when you're under water.
I know. It's hard to find a pen sometimes in a car when you got to write something. I'm going to work on my Roadrunner in a few minutes. What is the best way to find a vacuum leak?
Old school like yours, I would actually go with a simple can of starting fluid and go or WD-40 actually might be a little safer for you. Go very careful and gentle with it. And if you have an RPM gauge that you can put on it outside to watch under the hood, spray a little bit of WD-40 around where you suspect the vacuum leak is. And when those RPMs jump, you know you found it.
Okay, well, I would hear the motor rev up, right?
You'll hear a little rev up, yeah, but depending on your engine, depending on the sound of it and how it's built, your idle may not be perfectly smooth anyways. If you're running a good cam in there, you might have a little bit of lope, so your idle may be adjusting up and down anyways.
what's lope?
Lope in the engine is when you have a big camshaft, you hear the brum, brum, brum,
Oh,
brum.
okay, yeah.
No, the lope is on the bottom of your ear where you put the ear in.
Yeah. For folks that are wondering what we're talking about here, engines, of course, are basically just a big air pump is what the engine really is. And they're sealed to a certain point in areas so that it knows exactly how much air is coming into the engine. Now, if you have a leak somewhere that a hose is not as disconnected or the hose is split or something and it's sucking extra air in, that's called a vacuum leak. With newer cars, there's ways we can easily track that down by using different sensors on it. But in older cars like Steve's old Roadrunner, you get the old school mechanic style. You spray a little bit of WD-40 where you think that vacuum leak is, and when it sucks that extra hydrocarbon into the engine will actually speed up because you're giving it extra gas. So you'll see a change in the RPMs of the engine when you find where that leak is.
Okay. The other thing is I talked about with my transmission. I heard noises and all this stuff like that. Well, I went down to my guy, Performance Transmission in Delray on Congress. He put the car up on a lift, called me the next day. He told me all I did was drop the pan, cleaned it up, put new tranny fluid in it, and new filter. He went from the front to the back. He said everything was good.
Nothing leaking, huh? Good.
I was expecting a bill for like $5,000, because all I got charged was $200, and I was like, I was happy as hell.
Steve, what is the name of that transmission company again?
Performance Transmission.
In Delray?
Delray.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's give them a plug. When you find an honest repair shop, they're worth their weight in gold. So you folks in South Florida, you got a transmission problem. We have a positive testimony there from Roadrunner Steve. Performance Transmission.
Older cars, because I seen older cars there. So.
Very good.
Hey, Steve,
What?
What you running in that for a transmission? 727 or a 904?
Yes, the torque flight.
You got the 727?
Yes.
Nice.
With that. And that was about it. I was going to say something else. I forgot now.
Well, thanks for calling, Steve. I'm glad you're okay. That COVID is scary, so I'm glad you're back in action.
Yeah, so am I. I was getting aggravated sitting in the house, not doing nothing.
Yeah.
Terrible. Drive you crazy.
Okay. Everybody stay safe and well.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We are going to go to, let's see, eeny, meeny, miny, moe. We're going to go to Susan. She is a first-time caller.
Ooh.
And she's calling us from Stewart. Good morning, Susan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Yes, I just have a question about it's a Toyota truck, and my husband was asking me to ask you if he takes it in to buy it like another new Toyota, can the dealership tell what? And he did not buy it from Toyota because he did buy it used. Can they tell how much you paid for it?
No, unless it's listed, it would be almost impossible to find out that. If he bought it from a used car lot or another dealership, that's not the price that he paid is not going to be listed.
It won't be listed.
No.
I won't be able to know how much we bought it for if I was trading it in.
No, if you got a killer deal on it and you really saved a bunch of money when you bought it, and you didn't buy it from that dealership, they won't be able to even track that down ever.
Susan, what you can do is get an accurate description of the vehicle, and the VIN number would be good, but the exact year, make, and model and mileage, and you can go back in the database of a number of sources like Mannheim Auction. There's a lot of sources accessible to you and the general public on a particular year, make, model car as to what the wholesale value is now and what the retail value is now. So it would be a kind of a general way to get an idea of what the person paid for it. The average retail for that vehicle would be a number that would be close to what he paid for it.
And actually, what you're going to want to do now, if you're planning to trade it in or to sell it to them, go to at least 3 other good places and tell them that you've got an extra vehicle, somebody retired, they can't drive, whatever, but you've got an extra vehicle and you want to sell this vehicle, and ask them what is their best price that they will give you. Someplace like CarMax, maybe talk to Carvana or one of those. And I would pick, if it's a Toyota pickup, I would go to another dealership entirely and let them give you their best price, because a Toyota dealer will normally give you a little more than like a Honda dealer might.
That's a great idea. I should have said
And,
that.
yeah,
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's better than checking with the Mannheim auction numbers, but that's a real localized, accurate number if you do what Rick just suggested.
And Suzanne, you're in the driver's seat. You know, you can get a good price for your car. And as Rick said, CarMax, Carvana, we buy any car. So it's definitely worth, the time that you're going to have to put into it.
And remember
Right.
too that used car prices right now are really, really high everywhere. So don't let them lowball you.
Yeah,
Beat 'em up.
you're in the driver's seat, Suzanne, and you can get a good price for that vehicle. Trust me, you really can.
Okay.
You're going to be shocked.
And what was the name of that website again? Mannheim?
Mannheim is almost a monopoly on wholesale auto auctions. They are largely online now, but they actually have physical locations. Virtually every car dealer, will sell cars to Mannheim auctions, and they also buy cars. They make the market in cars, and if you go to MANHEIM, if you Google that, you can check prices from California to Florida as to what your make model cars are. And it used to be that pricing a car, telling a person what the wholesale value, the actual cash value, car dealers call it, so what that number was more of an art. Now it's a science, because you can look at the Mannheim and you know exactly real time, at 8:59 on this Saturday, this is what a 2014 2022 Chevrolet Corvette sells for. So it's MANHEIM, and the data is available to everybody.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the info.
You're very welcome, Susan.
That was all I wanted to know.
Hey, Suzanne, before you go, remember to leave your contact information so I can get that $50 check out to you as a first-time female caller. Please spread the word. We want to build a female audience here at Earl on Cars.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think that we are going to go to Dawn. Is Dawn holding still?
No, he's just watching.
He's just watching. Hey, Dawn, thanks for tuning in on Zoom. Dawn is one of our Zoom callers from weeks past. And
Hey, Don, I can see you. Can't hear you, though.
Okay, let's go to Rick. I bet he has
Well,
YouTube. You got FaceTime.
I got one quick one to read from Donovan here. He says, Hyundai this week showed off the refreshed 2025 Ioniq 5. It has several updates, including a bigger battery for a range of up to 310 miles, and it'll be made in a U.S. factory in Georgia, a brand new factory in Georgia. But most importantly, this is the first non-Tesla EV to have the NACS, which is the Tesla's name for their charging port, natively on the car. So from the factory, the charging port for it will be the Tesla-style charger. If you have access to the Tesla Supercharger network and all non-Tesla networks. So basically, you could charge this car any charging port. He says, a lot of people are waiting on the sidelines for vehicles to start to show up with the NACS port natively on the car and on the vehicles, and they're going to start to roll out within the next year and into 2026.
How are we doing on the Zoom? Did we ever figure out what the audio problem was?
No, Don isn't speaking, so we need to have Don. We need to get Don to speak.
I think we have two Zoom callers out there?
Oh, well, actually, we have 3 Zoom callers that are watching.
Yeah. So we got 3 people and we can't hear any of them.
Oh,
Well, I've asked them if they want to, ask a question, and nobody's responded, so they're just watching.
So,
Oh, okay. You're just watching. If any of you watching would like to speak, let us know. I thought our audio wasn't working, but Jonathan has told me that you're just watching.
And Donovan, I hear somebody. You hear them?
I heard it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I'm looking at you and hearing you.
I hear you.
Can you turn off your microphone, please, on Zoom?
Turn it off.
Or not your microphone. Let's see, which is it they need to turn off, Jonathan? We're getting the echo effect.
No, it should be working. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I think, Don, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Now we got you.
Excuse me.
Okay, now I see. We see you now.
You see me? Can you hear me? That's the question.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can hear you.
Finally, because when I received your $100 the last time 6 weeks ago, you could hear me, but I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
Well, thanks for coming back. That's great.
Well, thank you for the 100.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I had a real exciting vacation. I drove a electric car, the
Oh.
Pulsar 2, which was very interesting. The car itself is. Uh-oh. Did you lose me again?
No, we still
No,
got you.
no, we
we
still
have
have
another Zoom caller holding,
Yeah,
and when he
the
makes a
car
noise,
is-
it knocks you
The car
off.
itself is very, very unusual. It's fast for sure.
Hey, Don, did you use autonomous on your trip?
No.
You said you drove an electric car.
I drove an electric car. So what happened was I picked it up at the airport,
Uh-huh.
and I think I put around 300 U.S. miles, something like that, on it. I had enough juice when I got back that there was about 62% left, something like that. The interior and the way it works is I have a Mercedes GSL, a 23, and with all the whips and whistles. And the whips and whistles in this car are very similar and act almost identical. It was easy to drive for me, at least. It was fast, like I said.
What was the model? What model, make and model?
Yeah, I think it was a 23, or maybe it was a 22, Pulsar 2.
Well, I'm not familiar with that, but that's very interesting.
Well, it's a car made by Volvo, which is China, really. But it's interesting. It's similar, I guess, a lot to your Tesla in the interior and stuff. But it was interesting. The biggest problem I had was the rental car company, Hertz, gave me a little dongle to use on a Shell gas station. So I just pull up, use this dongle and fill up electricity. Well, there was no Shell station within the airport area.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't use it. So I had to go back to the dealership, to the rental car. I paid 42 euros, which is $46 or something like that, maybe more, to fill up from 68% to, they said 100%, but I don't believe them. So I got hosed there. But
Oh, boy.
cost
Well,
of rental was-
that is great. That's so interesting, and I'm so happy you're on Zoom. I don't think about people renting electric vehicles. You must be you're a gutsy guy. When I used to travel more, I think I'd be scared to death to rent a brand new technology car, and but you did it, and you lived.
The price for the car was it was a special $85 as opposed to $225 for gas. So I said, what the hell? I might as well give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I was happy. Like I said, we coming back, we were worried about we run out of electricity and where do we fill up? Because in Europe, although there are a lot of stations, when you get out into the countryside, there's nothing, zero.
Are you? Did you accelerate? Have you driven an EV before? Weren't you impressed with the acceleration of an electric vehicle?
Yeah, the acceleration is unbelievable. I mean, it was it puts you back in your seat.
Yeah.
And my daughter, who drove with me, said, "What the hell was that?" she thought she was in an airplane. That's how fast.
That's what Nancy says when I accelerate the Tesla. Don't tell her about it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Don, where in Europe did you rent the Polestar?
What year?
Where?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
What country? Where did you rent it?
It was Italy.
In Italy.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim Appreciates Life on our YouTube channel was asking where you rented it from. Where in Italy?
Airport. Don't ask me which one. It was outside of Milan somewhere.
Cool.
But yeah.
And that was the Polestar 2?
Pulsar 2.
Yep.
Interesting car. But I like my Mercedes. I'm sticking with it. I wish Volkswagen hadn't screwed up, because the ideal car for me would be a diesel electric hybrid. You get all the benefits of the diesel economy. On top of that, you get electric hybrid, and of course the fuel cost is different, but it would work good. But I had diesel rabbits for years, and one year when my wife was alive, she said, I have a car I've been looking at. Well, from there on in, it was Mercedes all the way. But this 23 that I have is very nice. There's been problems reported with it, but the only problem I've had with it was the running lights. They had to replace them because the air would come on. But I have had nothing but praise about it. So anyway.
So would you go electric again?
I go hybrid electric, but not all electric.
That's the way to go. Yeah, particularly I mean, why did you guys? When you're a Toyota dealer, have a Tesla for a primary car? I've listened to the show a number of times. Well,
I've never heard you talk about that.
Well, we'll be talking about our Cybertruck pretty soon.
You can blame that on me. I'm a tech freak, and I started out as an electronics engineer. I got a degree in physics and mathematics, and anything technical has always fascinated me. And I've never been more blown away than by the technology of electric vehicles, the autonomous. Nancy and I have a Tesla Plaid, and we use the full autonomous function everywhere we go. This morning we left the house, I pushed a button, I put True Oldies radio, and that's the last I had to drive. I just sat there. You got to keep your hands on the wheel, and it took us from our home right to the TV, the radio station. So the answer is anything that's new and exciting, I can't resist. So that's why a Toyota dealer is driving a Tesla.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'm a gadget freak too. I'm not an engineer by any means, but the autonomous driving for the Pulsar and the Mercedes is very, very similar. It'll follow the car at wherever you set it. Mm-hmm. It'll stop when it has to. It'll start when it has to, and what have you. But it's not as sophisticated, I don't think, as Tesla, because although I can. I mean, right now, I just programmed the car because I hadn't done. I could close and open my garage door with the car, with MyQ. I don't know if you know MyQ, but it's a garage door.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I can put that into my Mercedes. They had problems with it maybe a year and a half ago, and now it's fixed, and it's working now. So that's one of the tech things that is pretty neat, but.
Well, Don, listen, we got some other callers holding, and yeah. Now that we got this Zoom thing figured out, I'd love to hear from you again next week. And other Zoom people hearing about a successful Zoom conversation will promote that. I look forward to doing a good percentage of our show on Zoom. So thanks again, and please call.
Yeah, thank you. The next time I'll call, I'll talk about leasing.
Oh,
sounds good.
We would definitely love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, you and your daughter. We're going to go to John in Palm City. Morning, John.
Good morning. I'm just anxious to see about this reinforcement of this existing law and what gets done about it. And the example I want to give you is like seatbelts. Seatbelts came into effect. You don't hear of anybody anymore that's getting a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt.
Wow.
They came into effect August 15th, 1973, that they were made mandatory. There was a problem right away. Your car wouldn't start until you adjusted or fastened your seatbelt. They had so much flack over it that in 1974, October, due to complaints, they had to stop that law because you can option to put them on, but the car could start again. But then they put the blinking lights on your dashboard to remind you to set the seatbelt. There's one law after the other. The Monroney law, 1958, it was so strict. When I went with my sister to buy her first car, the dealer handed you a razor blade, and only you could take the sticker off. Now go to dealer after dealer, and you won't even find the sticker attached. It's in the glove compartment, it's in the back seat, or whatever, and the federal law says it must be attached. But how many dealers are getting fined for not attaching that to the window? I mean, I could go on and on and on. Dark windows on cars, there's a law, especially in some states like Florida, that it can only be a certain amount. I've never heard of anybody that got stopped for having too dark windshield or driver's window. So these laws are all great if they're enforced. So let's see now how Ashley Moody is going to enforce the complaints of this existing law that's been on the books for a long time.
Thank you, John.
I'll say, you really said it, John. You know, we got all kind of laws. Let's enforce them. Right?
Hey, John,
100%.
John,
I agree with you.
John, I got some information for you because I know you're a buff on older cars, and you're an old guy like me, and we think with great sentiment about the way the cars were, 25, 30, 40 years ago, or even further years ago. And I just found out, this is automotive news, there's become an overwhelming number of old used cars being imported. And the reason being that the federal law on emission control and safety, if you bring a car from Japan or Europe that's 25 years old or older, then it's legal. You can take a car that has no emissions suppression and that has safety, never been safety checked, and you can bring it and buy it in the United States. I'm not suggesting people do that. And of course, it would be illegal to drive it on the road, but you can buy the car now. And there's a guy named Gary Duncan, Duncan, and he's in Tennessee, and he is selling a lot of thousands of these cars are being sold. And think of a oldie model that you'd like to have, either European or Japanese car. You can buy one. He'll even put the emissions on it so you can drive it on the road for about $10,000, but that's a lot of money. But if you drive it off road or you just have it because you're a collector, just think it's a treasure trove of all these old cars. I'm thinking about buying. I want to buy a 1975 Toyota, because that's the year I started in business as a Toyota dealer. I'm going to call this guy Duncan and see what he has available in the 1975 Toyotas. Put it on my showroom floor.
One of the guys that works in our detail department has a Toyota Aresti.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese Toyota with a right-hand drive.
Yeah.
But it's the same as the GS 300 Lexus.
Yeah, this guy sells them there. Yep. He has these on his lot. He's got several hundred used cars, 25 years and older, European and Japanese, on his lot in Tennessee. And you ought to check him out, John, because I know you love old cars.
Yes, they've been doing this for a while, different dealers, distributors, but you have to be careful of what state it comes into, because some of the states, we're okay in Florida because there's basically no inspection in Florida, but when it comes into certain states, it's checked very thoroughly, and if it doesn't meet their standards, it's rejected, and you won't be able to register it. So that's an important thing as to what state that it's bought into of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. You can't buy a tag for it unless you have to. I don't believe they'd issue a registration, a tag, on a car that didn't meet safety qualifications. So that would be a problem there as to buying a license plate.
point, though.
Thank you, John. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
call.
Great
Okay,
hearing from
thank
you. Great hearing from you, John. Stay tuned for our mystery shopping report that's going to come to our audience from Wallace Kia. Wallace Kia in Stewart. Hey, have you, all of you out there, have you signed up? Have you signed up for Earl's Vigilantes? It would be a great help to, your neighbor, anyone else that you may know, a relative, and if you know anything, about cars, and you don't have to know how to take an engine apart, but you can sign up. And you can help a friend. You can help a friend buy a car. So go to www.earlsvigilantes.com. You can get all the information right there.
Most of the people often say we're preaching to the choir here at Earl on Cars. Literally, we have callers that know more than we do about a lot of things, especially on YouTube. And so we're kind of like preaching to the choir. Most of you don't need our advice on being ripped off, but if you're knowledgeable and you have some time to help other people, go to Earl's Vigilantes, sign up. We'll put your name and contact information with your permission on our website. So let's say you're in Louisiana, you're in Tennessee, or wherever you are, and someone in that area has an issue with a car dealer, be it repair, maintenance, or buying or selling. They could call you for advice. It's kind of like giving back a little bit. And if you're really car savvy, like so many of our callers are, we'd love to have you join the Vigilantes.
Yeah, you can share your expertise with, as I said, your neighbor, your relatives. And guess what? We'll send you a Vigilante cap. It has a logo on it. It's a real neat-looking hat. I believe we lost ours.
I think someone stole my hat.
I'm looking at your briefcase. I think it's among the missing. Anyway, take advantage of that, earlsvigilantes.com. Okay, let's share some text.
I got a couple here. Donovan wants to know, he says, Earl, when you get your Cybertruck, are you going to install Tesla Power Share? It allows you to power your house from your Cybertruck. He says, I think it should be included with your order. And he goes on to say that he's installing a transfer switch this weekend so that he can power his house using his EV9.
Well, I'm glad I didn't know. I thought my Cyber Beast had everything. So I have to add that to the car. I've got it. I've got my notification that my car is being built. I'll contact Tesla because I did not put that power share. I don't need the power share because
you've probably got backup generator. I'm sure
I do, but. Yep. But I think I think it would enhance the resale value because when I eventually sell the car, I think that's a really cool option. So I'll see if not too late for me to add it.
Well, that also would depend if the power share is something goes in the truck or if it's something that just goes on your charger in the house.
Oh,
so that it can backfeed to power your house if you need it. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Let's go for Anne Marie's text.
And the Cybertrucks that we've been seeing lately, we're seeing more colors. I mean, in the beginning, it was just the silver.
Well, they're wrapping them. A lot of people are getting them wrapped.
And now we're seeing black, but they look so nice in silver. We saw a white one, a black one.
I meant to send Earl the link for the TikTok I saw where they polished it to a mirror finish.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see that.
Oh, yeah. Total mirror chrome finish on the stainless steel. I mean, as reflective as any mirror.
How long does it take to keep that clean?
I wouldn't even want to imagine. So, good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Frank is on the line,
okay.
And we'll get back to Rick. Good morning, Frank.
Well, good morning to you guys. Just thought I'd say hi. It's been out in the country for a while. And
we haven't heard from you.
Yeah.
Frank, what do you think about this time that we're in now with the Attorney General committing to penalize, fine, maybe even suspend dealers that are not following the Florida laws? Is Does it give you any thoughts about possibly letting the Attorney General know about some of these dealers that are still flaunting her promise to treat people with honesty when they sell them a car?
Oh, absolutely. I'm unfortunately I'm going to wait to see if this is really going to happen with Moody, but yeah, by far people should be aware. I mean, that's like a little, like I said sometimes before I called you guys, I feel like a little mystery shopper on my own with my free time. I might just go in a dealership and drive a car and pretend I'm thinking about buying it and see the reactions and all the add-ons. In fact, a couple of months ago, I heard you guys talking about the Crown, and I went up to Bev Smith Toyota way up north, and they had one, and I drove it and wasn't that impressed with what all their add-ons of almost $8,000. It was a black one, and a few weeks later, I saw the exact same car in your lot you were selling. I guess you got it from them. And, of course, you didn't have their add-ons, and that's why I bought it from you. But it was interesting to see the exact car I had driven a couple of weeks earlier.
Yeah, there's a lot of work for Ashley Moody to do. And as I said earlier in the show, they were bragging about the fact that there were no complaints made to the Attorney General, and that was one of the reasons they weren't clamping down on car dealers. So we're trying to stir up the action, especially in South Florida, to get some complaints into Ashley Moody's office. That number is 866-966-7226. If you dial 866-966-7226 and you have a complaint against a car dealer, she has vowed after September 1st to go in, investigate, and punish the dealer as necessary.
Well, that's good. I actually just wrote that number down. I'll put it in my speed dial because when I come across, I'll be one of the first ones to call Ashley about that.
We would really appreciate that.
Okay,
well, not to worry. I
appreciate the call, Frank.
One quick thing.
Sure.
With Rick, it made me think back when he was talking about listening to noises. When I started first working at gas stations in the 60s, the mechanics had like an extra long screwdriver they would put down on an engine next to their ear to hear tapping noises or noises like that. And I was wondering if Rick remember those days or if that was too long ago.
That was probably a week and a half ago. Yeah,
Okay.
that old school technique, it's still, we do that all the time. It's a long pry bar. You reach down in, you get it right near the pulley that you think is making noise. You put your ear on it, and the sound will transmit through that solid shaft. And you just move it till you find the spot where it's loudest, and that tells you where the noise is. That's old school diagnosis, and there are certain techniques that they will never die because they work. You got these new chassis ears and all these things where you can clamp microphones all over the vehicle and it sends a signal back to a controller and you watch the little tits on the screen. But even those are not as accurate sometimes as the guy that looks like a little monkey crawling around inside the car listening to each spot to try to figure out where the sound is loudest while you're going down the road.
Yeah. Well, one last thing, and then I'll get off the. But when you were speaking to Roadrunner this morning, you asked about his transmission, and I had him in my Barracuda, it's a 727, and it was ironic because later in my career, when I became a pilot at Eastern and American, I flew the 727 from all seats. And it was it's a reminiscent why I like that airplane so much. But with that, let me let you guys get back to your other callers, and you have a great weekend.
Hey, Frank.
Thanks, Frank. Great hearing from you. Okay, back to Rick.
Okay, we have got Anne Marie's text. She says, "Good morning.
Good morning, Anne Marie.
It seems there's an app for everything nowadays. Artificial intelligence is becoming more efficient, and auto manufacturers can't seem to resist cramming technology into vehicles, whether the customers want it or not. Passenger side screens, subscription heated seats, for example. What happens if auto companies apply excessive technology to dealerships? Is it possible that car buying will go totally digital in the future?" I'm thinking of those touch screens at McDonald's now. That's what I'm seeing in my head. The app, for example, Each dealership would have the manufacturer's app with the total buying experience built in. The app with artificial intelligence would handle the would-be buyer's questions, provide a virtual test drive, take the order, automatically set up the financing, and apply for the vehicle registration, all the while eliminating the human sales and financing staff and the fancy showrooms. Fewer staff equals lower cost equals higher profits for the dealer. The only humans the dealer would need would be in the service department until reliable robots are routine, and the body shop if the dealer chooses to have one. Number one, from your viewpoint as a dealer right now, is this scenario a realistic dream or a nightmare? Number two, if it's a nightmare, how would one counteract it? Thanks.
Boy, Anne Marie, I know I say this every week, but I really mean it. You're a genius. You're also a mind reader. You can foresee the future. What you describe is being pursued by some manufacturers. Toyota, our dealership, they have a system, and AI is part of it already, so that when you want to buy the car, you can do it entirely online. You can finance it. Other manufacturers are beginning to pursue this. It's in the very early stages, as you might guess. So, you dealers out there listening, I mean, this is going to put the fear of God into all the dealers that are not playing by the rules, that are bait and switch advertising and unethical and dishonest, outright dishonest. But yeah, all the manufacturers that really understand the situation, I think most of them do. Most manufacturers are not vocal about their dealers. If you're a Ford CEO or a General Motors CEO, and you get up on stage somewhere and you say, "I got a bunch of dishonest dealers," that's not going to work too well. You're going to, first of all, you'll be sued. Second of all, you'll lose a huge amount of business. The dealers are your retail outlet, and by law, you can't sell cars like Tesla can. Tesla got around the law because it's an electric vehicle, and so when you buy a Tesla, you buy it directly from Tesla, the manufacturer. General Motors, Ford, Honda, Toyota, all the manufacturers would love to sell you cars directly. But unfortunately, they set up tens of thousands of dealers with contracts, and they're locked in by state law. Only a dealer can sell a car. So one way to combat that without selling direct is to come up with a system, Anne Marie, as you suggested, and make this app readily available. And what you're going to do is you're going to equip all the savvy people, all the intelligent, aware people and consumers to have this app. But we'll still have the problem of those that don't even have a smartphone, those that can't deal online, that they don't know how to contact somebody on a website, people that are English language is not their first language, people that are maybe high school dropouts, people that for whatever reason, the very elderly, I refer to them as victims. They're still going to be victimized by car dealers, but the aware manufacturers like Toyota, they're already doing what you suggest. So, Anne Marie, thanks for the great comment.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Okay.
All righty. Let's see. I think, we were pretty well caught up.
Oh.
I didn't mention. I'll let Nancy do it.
The Battle of the Consumer Report.
Well, you go ahead.
No, what are you looking at?
Well, I said that the current issue of Consumer Reports has a list of the safest and the least safe cars. I'll address the cars that are less safe, and then I'll let Nancy address the cars that are safe.
Okay.
I'm going to hold it.
That's what I was going to. I was looking at the unsafe cars because
you go
we're
ahead.
always talking about
You go
the
ahead.
safe cars.
You go
No,
ahead.
you go ahead. Go ahead.
This is what it looks like, and
Hey, we're live, Jonathan.
Yeah.
and a lot of people say, I'm not going to waste my time with Consumer Reports. I know this car is a good car. I'm not telling you to look in Consumer Reports to buy the car they recommend. I'm suggesting to you, consider not buying a car if they tell you it's not safe and why. And I'm looking at the page here. These are the cars that are, in writing by Consumer Reports, dangerous. So if they're not dangerous, somebody's going to be suing Consumer Reports, but they got their facts and figures down.
Yeah.
So don't buy a Dodge Durango, don't buy a Jeep Wrangler, a Chevrolet Tahoe, a GMC Yukon, a Toyota Sequoia. I did say Toyota.
Yeah, I was really surprised to
Wow.
see
Toyota
that on the
Sequoia.
list.
Toyota Sequoia, a Land Rover Defender, Lincoln Navigator, GM Sierra 1500, Mitsubishi Mirage, and the Chevrolet Silverado 1500. Now, notice most of these are large vehicles, and that's inherently the comment they make on most of these is low scores in Consumer Reports Emergency Handling Test. AEB with pedestrian direction unavailable. Here's a Jeep Wrangler, low braking and emergency handling scores. AEB with pedestrian detection unavailable. So do yourself a favor and your family, whoever's going to be riding in this car, and if you're going to buy a new car, go to Consumer Reports and don't buy one of these. There's 1, 2, 3, 8. There's 10 of them. Don't buy one of those 10 cars. Buy something else.
Yeah.
Buy a safe vehicle.
Yeah, and this here is what Earl is looking at is the October 2024 Consumer Report. And, I was really surprised to see this Toyota Sequoia, and it just came in short for braking, emergency handling. The tests, they just came in very low. I'm not surprised to see Jeep Wrangler on the list, without a doubt. So, anyway, go ahead.
I figure Jeep Wrangler, Jeeps sit high. They're top heavy. The center of gravity is very high, and they have such a short wheelbase that they are easy to flip over.
Yeah, and what about their pedestrian detection?
Automatic emergency braking.
They don't have one.
Yeah, it just they're dropping the ball there, but that's.
But this this here is a great magazine that you might want to pick up. It has everything in it, and they have a great road report and the safest cars. I'm not going to go over the list. We're getting into the time where we need to get to the mystery shopping report, so pick up the Consumer Report October edition. We're going to go back to Rick. I know he's sitting on a lot of call.
Yeah, we're actually pretty well caught up right now, except let's see. Yeah, there was one question that came in. Automania asked. He says, I was told by a Cadillac dealership that the $7,500 EV credit on a lease is tacked onto the buyout at the end of the lease. Is that true? And Donovan came back to say, Automania, if you lease an EV, the credit is passed to you by the leasing company. It does not get tacked onto the buyout. He continues to say, if you lease, you don't own the vehicle. The leasing company does. So you would not get the credit, but they can choose to pass it to you in the form of a capital cost reduction when you take the lease.
Boy, isn't that interesting? I never thought about that, but that's absolutely true that the leasing company owns the car. I think that's been worked out. I'll do a little research on that, but my guess is you probably don't get that $7,500 rebate right away, is because you're not buying the car, you're only using the car for 3 years. So the owner of the car is entitled to the rebate. He'll pass it along, and he'll pass along the benefits. I'm not sure the entire benefit, because the benefit is buying the car, and that means you bought the car, it's permanent. Leasing means you can use it for 3 years. So maybe they give you 50% of the $7,500, but I don't know. We'll research that. Yeah. I bet you Donovan knows.
Oh, he was the one that gave that answer.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well, if text us back or call us back or whatever, if I got it right or if I got it wrong.
He says you do get the credit right away when you lease the car.
The whole $7,500.
Because he just leased the EV9, so. Yeah. I'm pretty certain he said he leased it.
That's interesting.
So, yeah,
that makes a leasing even more attractive. We've always thought that leasing an EV was a better way to go, but with this, with these tax credit, it's just it's a no-brainer.
Well, and especially when, for the average person, when that 7,500 might be the money that you need to put the charging station on your house so that you'd be able to charge it at home.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, we're getting close to the mystery shopping report, and that mystery shopping report was done by no other than Agent Lightning. Boy, I'll tell you what a great asset she has been. She's maneuvered her way in and out of a lot of dealerships, and let me tell you what, she's done it with sophistication. She has really kept herself together, and there are times when it was pretty rough, a real knockdown. Okay, Wallace Kia in Stewart, if you want to, give us your rating on this dealership, you can do so at 772-497-6530.
Yeah, vote for A, B, C, D, or F. Are they doing a great job or are they doing a terrible job? Great on the curve.
Before you do that, I have to interrupt you for something very important. Please, ladies and gentlemen, use this week to take advantage of this number. It's really important. It's important to us. It's important to you. Give Ashley Moody a call, the Attorney General. She's going to work with us. We have to work with her. She has to hear our voice. You can do so by calling 866-966-7266.
No, 7226.
That is 866-966-7226. And that is Attorney Ashley Moody. Back to the recovering car dealer.
Okay, now remember this mystery shopping report of Wallace Kia in Stewart, Florida. That's just a little bit north of North Palm Beach area. It's only about a 20-minute drive from Nancy and I live in Jupiter, and it's about a 20-minute ride. So it's all part of the big South Florida Sodom and Gomorrah complex. When you buy a car here, expect to have a tough situation going for you. And remember, this was done on September the 5th, this mystery shopping report, and that was after September the 1st, which is when Ashley Moody vowed to enforce the law. So as you listen to this mystery shopping report, think, is this somebody that Ashley Moody should have a discussion with and possibly fine or suspend or penalize in some fashion? The commitment from the Florida Attorney General is if you do not put the complete price on your advertised or quoted price, and you do anything else that falls under the Florida Unfair Deceptive Trade Practices Act, I'm coming after you. And she's committed to do that in writing. So here we are. How does Wallace Kia in Stewart, Florida stack up? Ashley, I hope you're listening. I'm speaking in the first person as if I were Agent Lightning, the undercover shopper. We arrived mid-afternoon and were greeted by a salesman named Effie, E-F-E. He greeted my daughter and me by asking, "Is there anything I can help you with today?" My daughter smiled really big, and I replied, "She has a job now and she's looking to buy her first car, hopefully a Kia Forte." A little aside here, speaking again about Agent Lightning. It's really cool because she takes her family along in these mystery shopping. Here's her 16-year-old daughter. Last week she took her husband. So it really is difficult to spot spot a mystery shopper when they come in with the family.
All these characters that join in this crusade.
Effie matched her excitement and asked, "Which one do you like?" My daughter asked if the Forte hatchbacks are the same price as the Forte cars. Salesman replied, "No, the Fortes are our cheapest line." I wouldn't have used that word if I were trying to sell something. I'd say less expensive. But assured us that all their cars have amazing safety features. He then asked us to come inside and warned us our AC runs very cold, a little too cold, in my opinion. Once at his desk, he asked my daughter what color she likes and also took my license and scanned it into their system on his iPad. My daughter said she loves the white. We finalized our search and landed on a new 2024 Kia Forte GT. The MSRP Monroney label was $24,115 in snow white pearl. Effie excused himself to go get the keys, disappeared for about 5 minutes, then returned to take us to see the car. Once outside, he popped the hood, showed us how it has a breakaway engine and a fire retardant blanket type protector under the hood. I've heard of breakaway engine, and I guess that's just the fact that when you're in an accident, the engine will break free and not crush the occupant of the car or catch on fire or something like that.
That's
He then insisted that he needed to drive it off the lot to show us his safety features before we could drive it. Customers are not allowed to drive the cars off our lot, he said. But he also refused to show me any numbers before I drove it. Wouldn't tell me anything about prices. Effie and my daughter both knew I was annoyed at this point, and I challenged him about me driving it versus him. He wanted to go through all the features it offers, but I told him we have lane assist and are familiar with that. The car was on empty, which added an element of anxiety to the adventure. I can't stand driving a car that's on empty. And he drove from their lot all the way to PDQ. I wonder what that is. I should have asked.
pre-delivery quality, or actually PDQ. I think it's that chicken place, isn't it?
Oh, that's probably what it is. Yeah, to PDQ chicken place. Okay. They
Yeah.
pulled over for me to drive. I adjusted the seat and made a U-turn and then headed back to the dealership. Being a bit of a smartass, I asked, "Am I allowed to drive it back onto the lot?" He laughed and said, "Yes. I don't make these rules. I just have to follow
I
them."
love it.
That's an insurance regulation that they're worried about.
Love.
Of all the things they do to worry about a customer driving the car back in the lot, that ought to be at the bottom of the list. I parked at Forte, and then he tried to get my 16-year-old daughter to drive, but she declined. We headed back inside, and Effie said he'd be right back. He returned with a printout of the Monroney label. He highlighted the safety features on the copy of the Monroney label and then asked, "What are we looking for? What are we going to do today?" I said, "Hopefully buy a car." He cheerfully said, "Oh, let's do it then," and grabbed his pen, flipped the sheet of paper over. He wrote, MSRP, $24,115, $950 dealer discount, $1,000 financing through Kia, and then the bottom line being $22,465, and he put plus, plus, plus. And that's what bothers me is the plus, plus, plus. I asked him if he's going to be able to show me the price in writing with the fees. He pointed to what he was writing on the back of the Monroney label and said, "This is what I'm doing. Once we agree on a number, I will get them to. I will then get all your info for finance." So he dodged the bullet here. She wants to know what the junk fees are, what the additional fees are. She wants to know the whole price. She wants to know the out-the-door price, but he won't give it to her. I said, "I don't like that. I want to see the sales tax, the dealer fees, the plates, or whatever." He replied, "At this dealership, we don't really do that, but let me see if I could get my manager to make an exception." He walked off. So, Ashley Moody, are you listening? Effie returned and asked us to follow him. His finance manager, David, needed to go over a few things with us. So the salesman basically refused to give the delivered price to the mystery shopper. You come in to buy something, the salesman gives you a price, but it doesn't give you the out-the-door price. It doesn't give you the real price. He went to David's office and he said, "Well, I don't really have anything to print for you. I can give you a pretty good idea of your total price and monthly payments." He showed me his computer screen. Now, this is the F&I manager in the F&I office. And you can imagine, you're sitting there and there's a computer screen, and you got numbers on top of numbers, and you can't possibly identify junk fees or anything else that's important to you. There was also a payment of $433.85 based on financing $25,527 for 72 months at 6.79%. I asked him about the pricing and the fees. He said, "Thankfully, I don't have to do anything. I don't have anything to do with the numbers." David then said, "We are all transparent with everything here at Wallace. Look at it as invoice of ours." Then he showed him the factory invoice, printout from on this particular car. Now, if you're regular listeners to this to this show, you've heard me say dozens of times, the factory invoice from a manufacturer to a car dealer is packed with around $4,000 in profit on the average. Of course, the lower price cars have less, but this Kia Forte does have kickbacks, holdbacks, and other refunds of hidden profit on the invoice. It should not be called an invoice. It is not an invoice. So showing this invoice was just another act of deception. I asked him about the pricing and fees. He said, okay. He asked if I had any other questions. I did not, so he excused himself to find Effie. We waited for a few minutes and then snuck out the door before they noticed. Now, I had my son, Josh Stewart, who also works at our Toyota dealership, to back it out and find out what the junk fees were, what the hidden profits were that neither the salesperson nor the F&I manager at Kia, Wallace Kia, would give him. And he said there are about $1,000 in junk fees. And he did that by calculating what the quoted price was and what the sales tax was, because the way to identify a junk fee is the fact that they have to pay sales tax on it. If it's a government fee, you don't tax a tax, so a government fees are legitimate. They paint with one paintbrush, they say all fees are okay, but only a government fee, tax and tag, is all you should pay. The prices, there was an $849 electronic filing fee and $159 in dealer installed options that he could find, but there were other fees to the tune of about $1,000, which we had to do, but because of our knowledge of cars and doing a mathematical backup to find out what the junk fees are, which were not disclosed. So that wraps it up. September 1st, laws are being enforced. What happened here would not be considered legitimate in today's Florida statute that has unfair and deceptive advertising, that the quoted price, the advertised price, has got to be the price you pay to take it out the door, plus government fees only. And we would welcome your votes. Remind you that there are no A's. They're like hen's teeth. Black swans, or whatever you want to call them. We have a couple, but that's about it. And F is pretty harsh because that means that the dealers are doing something illegal. Now, illegal has a new meaning now with the Attorney General's commitment to enforce the law in Florida that's been here for 20 years. And again, that number, if you want to let Ashley Moody know, if you happen to have been into Wallace Kia or another dealership that violated the Florida law, you give Ashley a call at 866-966-7226. That's 866-966-7226. And we'd like to hear your votes. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Nothing coming in on text just yet. We'll go here to one of the YouTube channels. We got T Cash says, D-. Welcome to the evil world of Stealerships new driver. So much for our new Florida law on junk fees. Earl? ? Donovan says, F. There was not a single thing transparent about that place. Tom Steckel, F. Failure to provide a detailed out-the-door price. I'd be a breakaway customer. Andrew Plasinski says F. Johnny Z. Fradley, F for Find Me Ashley Moody Fast. Cram 1624, have Agent Lightning call Ashley Moody now. F, enforce the law. Joseph Kelleher, F, zero transparency at that dealership. Mark Smith, Wallace Kia gets an F for me. Brian Sedlatko, fees, F for me. Mark H says D. Old school pricing policy won't fly nowadays. And Captain Mike, he wasn't putting a grade in. Pardon me, folks. For me, I know Ashley's supposed to be getting in there, but I'm gonna say a D because they're playing games like all the rest, but with proper assistance, I think you could probably beat them up and make them give you a proper deal if you get in there and work on them. I'm not going to go F right now because I don't see anything there that was like really outside the norm for South Florida.
Gotcha.
And until Ashley Moody gets down there and really starts putting the spurs to them, they're all just going to sit and wait to see, is she going to do it or not?
Well, there's some truth to that. We'll see. Nancy, what's your score?
Well, my score for Wallace Kia Stewart is Ashley Moody, the Attorney General. I'm going to give you her phone number. Write this down. You're going to need it. You got to help us. We're going to help you. 866-966-7226. And my grade, without a doubt, I know someday I'm not going to be giving out these type of grades because I know things are going to change. And we have Ashley Moody in our back pocket now. So my grade today is a F.
Okay. Yeah, our whole scoring is going to have to be reflected of the new intent by our Attorney General. And if you tuned in late, remember, if you have a legitimate complaint against a car dealer, if you've been shopping for a new or used car, and you realize that you've been victimized because the price that you were told was not the price they were going to ask you to pay, plus government fees only, that's allowable. If you have that experience and you file that complaint, we're going to pay you $100. And we'll see how that goes. It has to be a legitimate complaint. You have to have visited the dealership, and you have to have had the intent to buy. And if you experience what we just experienced here with our mystery shopper, that would certainly be a complaint. I mean, if I was really going to buy a car and they wouldn't give me the price until I went into the financing office, they basically said, you got to buy the car, and then when you go in the financing office, you get the breakdown of the fees. So they refused to give the delivered price to me if I were in Wallace Kia in Stuart, Florida, and that's a violation of the law.
So what's your grade?
I'm teetering between a D and an F. I think I'm going to stick with you. It's too soon. It's too soon now to eliminate all the dealers from consideration. If Ashley Moody is not going to fulfill her promise, then I would say we have to keep on the conservative curve basis. So I'm going to stick with a D, and I'll match your D. And of course, Mrs. Sunrise, I was going to say, Nancy said an F.
I see the perfect movie quote for this is from my cousin Vinny when he looks over and says, "You were serious about that?" and that I see as the dealerships in South Florida. When Ashley Moody, if she comes in and starts swinging the bat around and doing some damage down there, I can see them looking at you. Were serious about that? Yeah, but
Here's what I'm serious about. The email that we received, and I'll read it word for word. The Cars Rule case has been scheduled for oral argument for October the 9th in New Orleans. And the attorney ends the sentence with saying, progress. And it definitely is.
Yeah, that's the argument, you could call it, in Texas, where the Texas Auto Association joined the NADA, National Automobile Dealers Association, to block the FTC Cars Act, which is Combat Auto Retail Scams. It was supposed to go into effect in July. And our attorney, because we filed an amicus brief to the Texas Circuit Court to support the Federal Trade Commission, the judge has agreed to hear the oral arguments in October. Now, the bad news is that's October 10th, I think, and they've held it up because it was supposed to go in effect in July. But my attorney tells me the fact that the judge agreed to hear the oral argument is encouraging to us because he could have thrown it out without even allowing that argument. So we got to wait till October to find out.
And that's October the 9th.
October 9th.
In New Orleans. So October the 9th in New Orleans.
Okay. I think we got about wrapped it up here, didn't we, Nancy?
I believe that we have. Jonathan just said I was off camera, probably where I should be.
Want to read what I just said?
What do we get?
Okay, while Rick's checking.
Okay, he says, Don on Zoom has a question. Do we know if the Attorney General will have a scorecard for the new law compliance?
That's a good idea. Wouldn't it be nice if she would join forces with us, have her on the show, even if we're only Zoom, and we really work together? Just think what this group in this room here at True Oldies, Earl and Cars, if we worked in conjunction with the State Attorney General, the Attorney General's office, Ashley Moody, could we ever turn things around or what?
Have we? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
I think I'm trying to fill in so we can don't have dead air. So I was talking and you.
Blah 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 blah. Okay, hey folks, thanks for joining us this morning. We definitely enjoy your company, and you can see how and hear how excited we are